Yes, Argentina, I would like to introduce 3 pieces of legislation that Argentina has now in place. The first one is equal marriage law, which is the law 26618. The full and free consent expressed personally by both parties before the competent authority to celebrate it is essential for the existence of the marriage. The marriage will have the same requirements and effects regardless of whether the parties are of the same or different sex. The act that lacks of any of these requirements will not produce civil effects if the parties have acted, even if the parties have acted in good faith, except as provided in the following article. Okay. But the idea of this small change, but that makes a huge difference, is that it refers first as parties like partner, like 2 people, but it doesn't say men and women. So that's and then in the following part specifically says that has the same requirements and effects regardless whether the parties are of the same or different sex. So that is very conclusive that the marriage is open and is in the same way as a heterosexual or homosexual couple. It's exactly the same. And also there is a very important law regarding the gender identity, which is the 26743. Everyone has the right to the recognition of their gender identity, to the free development of their person according to their gender identity, to be treated accordingly to their gender identity, and in particular, to be identified in this way by the instruments that prove their identity with respect to their first name, photo, image, and sex which they are registered. So this proves again that what matters most here is not how you were born, let's say, in which sex, but how do you recognize yourself. And because in that way you have to be a member of the society. So the way you are, the way you perceive yourself, the way you want to be treated, let's say, in the society, that's the most important part. And that law triggered many other decrees and lower rank legislations that I want to talk about a job quota for the public sector. That it's also a law from last year, a decree from last year. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Julian Canessa, the head of the political section at the Embassy of Argentina in Korea. Yeah, sure. As I told you, the equal gender law triggered a lot of changes. I explained one of the changes was in the electoral field. And another one, again, the government wants to actively take part to promote these changes. Otherwise, you can have a law, but the changes are very little or take a lot of time. So the government who really takes care about this issue, they say, okay, I want to implement an active policy to make changes. So this decree, which gives in the public sector as an employer, the government will give 1% of all the jobs for the LGBT community. And they have to, so the government has to reserve positions for this minority. And then, let's suppose you have several people that want the same position, it's okay, but it will be the quota reserved for the LGBT minority. Also, it says that you don't even have to go to the national ID and change your name or your gender. You don't have to do that. You just say it. I didn't want to do the change because I want to do it, because I'm free to do it or not. The law gives you the chance, but it's not an obligation. But still you can, without doing the change of your name, you still can apply to a job reserved for the LGBT. Also, it says that, let's suppose, because it happens in Argentina, I know in other countries, but some people want to apply for a job, but they didn't finish their secondary school, or they don't have a university degree, so the government will say, well, if you still have the qualifications, we're going to hire you, and we will help you to finish your study. So you will have time to study, and of course the job that gives you stability. So we can help you to finish your study, and that's a very important part also, because sometimes people work and they drop their studies. And finally, what is also important is the training. It says that all the people that are employed in the public sector, like me, like anyone, should be trained about all these changes, because it could be challenging for people. So it's okay. The government also will conduct trainings at all levels, so the people can understand what's going on and what is these new policies that are being put in place. So they understand, they feel secure, and they will welcome, and there won't be any problems. So that's this small decree, but again, this is one example. There are many others. I can name others related, for example, for the TV, for the means of communications. They also have to address taking into account that there is a new law, that we are extending new rights, and the people that are in the TV, they have to know how to address all these situations. So that's also another example of all the different fields that impacts these new changes. Yeah, the Equal Marriage Law, number 26618, is a landmark in the national law of Argentina, and it's a law which was passed back in 2010 in July. So it's 10 years old, or almost 11, but still 10 years old. And of course, this law had a lot of controversy around. Many people were against, but many people more were supporting this law. The bill was voted with 33 votes in favor and 27 against. So that shows, and 3 abstentions. So that shows that there was a parity in the Congress at that time. This law, so far in this decade, 20,000 marriage or couples got married of the same sex. So it shows that the law needed to be passed because there was a minority that without rights that were asking for that. The law itself, it's an anti-discrimination law because before the law, you will have like two types of people. People that could marry because they were of different sex, like men and women, but living in the same country with the same law, you will have a community of people that could not marry because they wanted to marry with a couple of the same sex. So that discrimination was something that the law tackles and the law removes. But how can we have such a law? It happens like at once? Of course not. We have to go back to 1990, where the first movements tried to fight to get like a marriage for the same sex, and they were unsuccessful during an entire decade. But only in 2002, in the city of Buenos Aires passed a law saying that it was allowed what we will call like civil unions. Civil unions, it was a way to give some of the rights. Which rights? For instance, you can give your partner the right of a medical insurance, or if he or she can visit you at hospital, but you cannot get all the same rights that like a couple could have by the law of marriage. For example, you cannot adopt child, or you cannot inherit any properties or anything because that was not allowed. So after this initial law that permit the civil unions, again, which is different from the marriage, some other cities copy that initiative, but was very sporadic, not widespread. So the community felt that it was not enough because the discrimination was still in place, because I could get some of the rights, but not all the rights. So they continue working, pushing with the political parties and also the movements organized better. And they pursue to include this civil union to have more rights. Okay, that the Congress did not allow. So it was like some years that no improvement was made. But eventually in 2009, a couple of two men went to a judge in Buenos Aires again, and they asked to get married. So a judge there said, okay, according to the law, it's not constitutional to get married, but the law is discriminating you. So we need to change the law. That's like a first ruling from a judge. He says this is discriminatory for you. Then there was an appeal. Another judge says that the previous ruling was not correct, and this couple ended up marrying in a city called Ushuaia in the south of Argentina, in the southern city of Argentina, in the Patagonia. There, a judge accepted the first ruling and says, I will accept the marriage. So then, after that, it was like kind of an explosion because many couples went to the different judge and says, I want to get married, I want to get married. And they file a special figure in law. It's like a protection when you feel that you need to protect from the law, let's say, in a way. So there were hundreds of those couples in different court asking to get married and exceptions to the law. So eventually a new law was voted by the Congress in 2010, in the following year. By 2010, 8 couples were already married, although there was no law, let's say, no federal law. But the following year, in 2010, the Congress changed the law, and I want to read this because it's important. The new law says that the marriage will have the same requirements and effects, regardless of whether the parties are of the same or different sex. So this is important because, again, it's not that they are obliged to marriage because they don't, but maybe they can live together and don't get married. It's okay, but you must have the opportunity or the right to choose, and that's the discrimination. Now, I can marry or not, but the law has to allow me to marry. So that was again what I told you before. It was a very even votation at the Congress, but by 33 to 27, the bill was passed, and that was, I would say, the landmark. The landmark in terms of the law, no? But again, the law doesn't come by chance. There was like 20 years of work of the people asking for the rights, civil associations working together, trying to prepare a draft of laws that were presented to the Congress to get no results at the time. So it's a very long work, heavy work done, but eventually now we have the law, and Argentina was the first country in Latin America to have an equal marriage law. So that's a very important thing that we are all very happy about. Thank you. Gender identity law is the law number 26743. And well, just to make an introduction, there's a difference between the sex that we have when we are born, and the gender is like a social construction about how I perceive myself to be. And so again, this law wanted to cover and also extend rights into this area, which is what about if I feel different from let's say the sex that which I was born, and this is important because again it's it goes to the real inner part of the people. It's how someone is perceived by himself, no? Not like what you see me, but what I see of myself. So it's a really different point of view, and it's a very important thing to address. This law was passed only 2 years after the previous law, the equal marriage law, so in 2012. And for you to have an idea on this law, it was voted 55 in favor and none against, and a few abstentions. But it was 55-0, and the previous one was 33 to 27. So you will see that the first law really opened the road and I will not say make things easier, but at least gather a lot of more energy to change things. This law is it's not very long, but basically it gives the right for a person to go to the we call the National ID office where the IDs are issued, and you can go and ask to change your name and your gender just because you want. You don't need to dress in any way or to have surgery or to have anything. You go there and you can ask to be changed. If you are an adult, you go on your own. If you are a minor, you still can do it. You go with your legal representatives, plus a minority lawyer, which is given by the state, and you can have the procedure done, which is change the name. And it's very important because, like, no question are asked. It's free, and once you change for example, your name in the ID, that triggers a lot of changes. For example, it goes to the National Electoral Office, so you can vote with your new name. You don't have to vote with the original name or the name of the ID when you were born. So you can use your new identity, let's say. So so that's one thing, but it's important to say that from that ID, then it triggers a lot of legal effects. Also, it will never go against the rights that you already have. Let's say that you were owner of a house under your previous name, and you change it, of course, you're still owner of the house, no? You don't lose anything. It's never against. The idea is to add more rights, not to take or to remove rights that you already have. And lastly, is the confidentiality, because on the birth certificate, of course, it will be the original name and the change that is asked. It is all written there, but no one can have access to the birth certificate unless it is approved by the person, no, who is involved. So it gives really a protection to the person that he or she can go ahead with his life, and no one will be asking or looking where he's not allowed to look. So it's really important, and well, this idea is to end discrimination and to extend more rights to the society. That's the purpose of the law. Well, that's. Yes, let me begin by saying that June is a special month because it's the Pride month, because of the 1969 riots that were repressed, and it's important to do this kind of activities in June. Also, Argentina, as an introduction, I would like to say that Argentina is a country committed to fight against discrimination, racism, xenophobia, especially if it is related to sexual orientation or identity gender. according to the national constitution and the international law that Argentina adopted. Argentina fights against all discrimination that could penalize a person because of his sexual orientation. We want an equal society in Argentina. Firstly, I would like to say that Argentina has an active role in the United Nations Human Rights Council. We have made a tremendous work there. But also I would like to point two other activities that Argentina is working. One is the United Nations LGBTI core group, which is like a regional, it's an informal group formed by countries, and we try to raise awareness about the LGBTI issues, and also we work to gather consensus for the multilateral work that has to be done. So that's one group, and the other one is called ERC, which is called Equals Rights Group and Coalition, sorry, and this group is co-chaired now by Argentina. It was created only in 2016, but it has a tremendous activity to get more rights for the LGBTI group. Yeah, sure. Well, I want to say to them that probably this is the right moment to continue fighting for the rights, and that never give up the dreams or what they feel. In my country, this has been a long journey. I would say that more than 30 years that the topic is on the agenda, because probably it happens since the beginning, but on the agenda it has been like 30 years so far. So I believe that there are a lot of countries that have a lot to teach or to share, and experience that can be communicate, and people can take advantage of this. So no, my warm hugs for everyone, and well, I hope you can continue making progress. I would recommend to organize very well in Argentina. There was a very important communication between the civil associations and also the political parties, because you need the two. It's not that it will be done, let's say, alone by isolated cases. It's important again that the law should change. No? The law should be accepting these new demands from the society, and I'm sure it does, because even international law shows the right of non-discrimination is international, recognized internationally. So well, I hope the best for everyone, and I hope to see soon in the festival maybe.